Welcome to the Rebuild Procurement Podcast, the number one, Alan, procurement podcast in the world, where we dive deep into topics to keep procurement people up to date and ahead of their peers. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher of choice. Just click that thumbs up sometimes the like button, make it an exclamation point, tap that. On today's episode, Alan, we're go new year, new us, right? As we always do ourselves. Sometimes it's a bit of repeated and continuation. But we're going to go through planning, goals, and then a big goal that we'll talk about towards the end of the episode and how to do that, how to set that up. I'm Tom Finn, bringing 15 years on the client side, procurement, finance, and category management experience in large and small cap orgs.
And I'm Alan Vika, procurement geek on the sell side of our street, and I've assembled a team of superhuman procurement professionals doing managed services at a company that we call Summit.
All right, Alan. So today, you and I, we kind of have, I think maybe I've been trying to lean in a bit to the kind of structure that you have in place with things. But just from we're still in the first month of 2026, and something that you and I have done historically. I think we both look back at the prior year, and we kind of do this back towards the December timeframe, maybe early January, and then we kind of set the goals and plan ourselves for the new year, and that could be personally, professionally, for your teams. But we have certain ways that both you and I go about that structure, and today we wanted to jump into that, right?
Right on. Yep. It's such a hugely important topic, the notion of planning. My dad always taught me, he says, you're not going to get anywhere in life unless you plan. If you just bounce around, Brownian motion, random walk, then you shouldn't be surprised when you find yourself midlife and end of life kind of confused and wandering and lost. So he was always a big disciple of planning, and always said, you got to plan for things, and would always kind of recount to me stories of how he'd planned for things. And that was always, I think it's always a good way to learn is to hear the stories about how somebody else did it. And
was that like the bedtime story, Alan? Was that like?
Probably, unfortunately it was. What do you mean? My dad was never around for bedtime.
Oh, fair enough there. Fair enough. It was the prequel to bedtime.
Yes. But yeah, so planning is a huge theme. And in order to plan, you've got to have a goal. I like to think of these two things very much in the Jordan Peterson maps of meaning sense. So picture two-dimensional space, and upward and to the right, you've got a goal. It's something. I want to be this, I want to achieve this, I want to do this, but it's up there and you're down in the lower left corner. How do you get from point A to point B? Well, it's the line from point A to point B that describes the plan to get to that point B, which is the goal. That's kind of and that plan, that line, it's usually not a line. It's usually a set of kind of a crooked path. That is the map of meaning. So the goal represents your meaning. How you get there represents the plan, and how you get there is the map. So, it's a fascinating topic for me. It's kind of one of those core topics you got to be thinking about all the time.
Yeah. And I think some folks say goals aren't important. Why would you set goals? You hear a lot of that, especially around this time of year. We're saying the opposite. I think both you and I have been helped along life by having the goals, figuring out sometimes those goalposts move. Sometimes you achieve something, and then it's a matter of how do you then make that further out and either iterate or change. But yeah, from the way I've kind of let's call it I say professional life, but I have a version of this in personal life too, is like overarching. What do I want to achieve? What do I want to achieve in my life? I've had that professionally since I graduated college. Kind of just like the structure, the type of company, the size of company, what I plan to get out of it. That's kind of sat on the top over my head for my whole professional career. And I've kind of gone along that trajectory, oddly enough, which probably isn't oddly enough. You kind of make decisions to get there. There's like micro decisions that still end up leading to the goal, which I think is the reason that they're so darn important, because you do end up making these like little tweaks. If you can go left or right based upon the goals you have set, you make decisions, right? If someone's choosing whether or not that they want to, get married, find a partner, they might go out right? Oh, I could stay in, play video games, or go
Step
out. Maybe
one.
I'll go out to meet somebody, right? Those type of like
Yeah,
micro
that's right.
within the minute decisions, like those
Yep.
do get changed by the goals that you set.
Yep. And I love how I'm going to keep going back to Peterson because this maps of meaning is his masterwork. It's the thing he dove into. And basically, one of the points that he makes is anxiety arises when you feel as though you're off the path. So you've established a path that's going to try to get you to your goal, and the further the distance from that path, your body sends out all the chemical signals of
Oh,
anxiety.
interesting. Mm-hmm.
And if you get too far, those anxious cues, those anxiety cues become depression, right? Like you kind of get stuck. It's like you've lost your way. You can't find your way back to the path. But the anxiety is meant to be that little nudge that says, you know where the path is. You remember where the path is. Now get back on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Having a meaning, having a goal is definitely important. And personally, I totally feel that. So I think one place that you and I differ a little bit, Alan, is just from a status quo. Like my brain loves to wander. I feel like you like to wander too, but you kind of start with structure. I start with wandering, and I've
Well,
needed to. Yeah,
you know what that is. That's where are you from,
brilliance.
Tom? Yeah, you're Irish, right?
Yeah,
Last name like Finn.
yeah,
Come on,
yeah.
you're all Irish. Last name like Viek van der Beek, all German. That's so it's like
That's
structure.
fair. Well, yeah, I mean, it's still the northern part of Europe. Nevertheless, if you go further south, maybe I'd expect a little bit more. But I have found that like I've added structure to myself. I married someone way more structured than me, which is helpful, right? Keeps you in line. But I also like I keep a paper agenda. I write out my week every week. I've tried to do it. You're very good doing it electronically. I've done it electronically, but what I end up doing for me, it ends up it goes electronic to then a notebook to then post-its to then this that. Like if I have the week laid out, I write down the night before because I know myself at this point in my life. Write down the night before or the week before what I plan to do during the week. Left hand side is the professional stuff, right? Just main things I have to get done, whether it be by a certain day of the month. And then on the right hand side is more like personal things, soccer practice. If I'm just doing something for my own self, reading something, writing something, preparing for something, then that's on the right hand side. So it's just these things where just adding that structure as part of the planning process. I mean, for me, writing it down, just that old school way is the way that it gets tracked on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think that you made it sound like I was going to be critical of any of that just because I'm all electronic. I didn't arrive at all electronic. I started where you started. I was doing different things, and I think you have to figure out what bespoke method works for you. What is it that clicks, that locks down? Because there's so many different ways to do this notion of planning, and I've tried them all, and I've finally landed on one that I say I believe that's sustainable, and it kind of gets me to where I want to be. But a lot of trial and error to get to that point.
Yeah. Now, just going into this year, then, Alan, for like from a goal setting perspective from yourself, I guess I'll speak to myself first. But I've heard this like a lot of times they'll have like work, money. There was a 4 F's, a family, fitness, finance, fun. What do you want to do amongst those 4 things that I found to just be like memorable, right? Just when you start off with the same letter every single time, that is always something that makes it memorable. But I know for me, I've this for 2026. I have an overarching theme for myself, which is just it fits in with this conversation. It is structure. So adding structure and adding follow through. So some interesting things I've done this year. So Google Gemini actually can connect with your Google Calendar now. So I went through and I decided like there was a fitness side of me. I'd been, skipping the gym, running late at night, whatever, just to make sure I get something in. I decided that I'm going to have a certain time during the day, either before or after work, sometimes maybe during the day, that I'll have fitness. And I built this whole thing within Google Gemini first by prompting it just to make it what I wanted. Right. And then I had it add it all to my calendar. So within my phone, I have my work calendar, which is all my work stuff. And then I have my personal calendar connected. So they overlap, right? One's blue, one's purple, whatever the colors are. So I have, as I look at my day, where the workday starts, what am I doing before work so I could achieve certain other things? What's the family time? What is like, I've actually decided to go blocks of hours for life this year. and see how that plays out. So I set it for 2 months. We'll see how that goes, but it's already feeling very good because I could look at it and kind of follow through.
I love that. Yeah, and I think you hit on something that I know that we've talked about on this pod before. It's this notion of maybe better than setting resolutions and setting some crazy detailed goal. Oftentimes it's easier to set a theme of the year.
Mhm.
So when I started Summit Procurement, the year I started Summit Procurement, it was the theme of the year. It's the year of Summit. And I was going to focus on all things Summit. When I woke up at 6:30 in the morning, first thing I was going to do was open my laptop and do some work. Then last year, interestingly, was the year of loving kindness. I really wanted to try to crack open this. Hey, how do you have a better heart? How do you think more charitable thoughts? How are you kinder towards family, loved ones, friends? And it took me a full year. I mean, I'm probably step 2 of 10 on that, but I feel like I've made great progress on that theme. And I kind of had to then put it away, so to speak, for last year, but it's still kind of in my mind and still something that's going to be improved and worked upon. So this year I decided, based upon something I'd seen and something I've wanted to do, it's the year of philosophy. And my goal, I found a top 35 books in the philosophical canon. I found that post and I was like, I'm going to go and read each one of those books. So I got to read like a book every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Just finishing up Plato's Republic now.
Interesting. So do you think that's achievable? 35 books in 52 weeks?
I've done 50 books in a year before.
Ooh,
so
all right.
35 though is a stretch. I'll tell you, for me, it's a stretch. My attention span with the advent of blogs and podcasts and everything else,
a lot to read.
Span's nil. So I've not been able to get as much reading done, but that's a part of the reason why this was the theme of this year. Was I also wanted to re-engage with long form reading. So I'm hoping that one of these is going to actually, just really ring the bell, and I'm gonna dig in and be able to crank.
Yeah, I also decided to start reading more. Not going to go for 35 books. Just like, let me get through a book this year, like a full one, because I've stopped so many books. So, but that's over the next like month or two. I'll make sure I have one every night. I'm reading a little bit before bed. Reading Red Rising, which I've never read, which is like a more science fiction.
Yeah,
my cousin had given it to me like 5 years ago, Alan. So it's all tattered because I brought it around everywhere, and I just like I've read the first like 50 pages like 3 times. So, but I'm committed now. I'm committed now.
You know what you need to do? You need to find a friend who's got a book club and join a book club, because I find that's the biggest forcing mechanism. I probably read on average 10 books a year, but 4 of those or 5 of those come from the book club, and they're not books that I would have read otherwise, and I would not have finished them. But when you got to show
Pressure.
up and report out to a group of guys, it's like you feel that pressure.
That's fair. I may do that, but let me just make sure I can finish a book first. I haven't completely lost that skill set to start and complete a book. That's not audio.
Right.
But yeah, so just going back to it then, Alan. So like the goals, I think for both you and I, there's general themes, right? Those themes can go between like life and business, and they kind of overlap. I'm sure some of the philosophical stuff that you get out of reading Plato, reading whomever else, Marcus Aurelius, these are the types of things that you're going to end up being able to implement in life and in both business and personal. And from a structure standpoint, that's for certain something that I'm going to get a lot out of on both ends. Are there any other ways, Alan, just in general, you set goals for yourself or your team? Generally speaking,
this is a great topic because you're talking to 56-year-old Alan now who owns his own business, and we're a privately held business. Everybody will say, okay, what are the goals for 2026 for Summit Procurement? And as a matter of fact, I have to report out this Friday to my team. They're all coming here to Pittsburgh, and we got, it's not called State of the Union. It's called View from the Summit. I'm going to give my little, half hour, 45-minute spiel on good things going on at Summit. And so I feel the weight of the world to make this good and interesting. And one of the things that I'm wrestling with is this notion of goals, because we don't have to have goals. And in many ways, I don't like to set artificial goals. That's one of the problems. That's one of the reasons why this notion of theme of the year was meant to replace a resolution, because a resolution is oftentimes this super detailed thing that you're either going to hit or miss, whereas a theme is a little bit more, I'm going to work in that direction. And that's kind of how I think about most of my goals these days, they're work in the direction of, they're not achieve something. And maybe that's just the state of my life where I feel like I've kind of achieved a lot of the things that I want to do, and I'd rather now just move in the direction of certain things. So, certainly is growth on the menu for Summit in 2026? Oh, heck yeah, it is. There's going to be growth, but is it some artificial number like we got to grow $2 million this year? We got to add 4 new clients? No, it's not that, because I don't necessarily have great insight into whether that's really achievable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of, I'm probably going to talk a bit about the theme of the general theme of growth and what sort of growth we'd like to see.
Yeah, and the execution it takes to get there. I'm certain,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
follow
for
through.
sure.
Yeah, because something from like a big company standpoint, I mean, everyone's had to, whether you've worked at a big company or not, everyone's had to do the SMART goals, right? Like there's like specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound, those type things. Like, okay, it's a good way to set goals, but yeah, that mid-year, hey, or at the end of the year, worst case scenario ever, which I feel a lot of companies have stepped away from this. It's like, did you achieve that thing we talked about 12 months ago? It's like, that changed, right? Like no one should be setting
Of
goals like
course.
that ever. But
Yeah.
one that's what was it? Was it from Measure What Matters? The OKRs? Was it that one? Was it John Doerr? Measure What Matters? I'm actually going off recollection right now.
Okay.
But anyway, OKRs, right? The way Google did it is a lot of how folks think about it. Where you have like these objectives and then key results, I think is the KR. But the way I've kind of viewed that, like there's a very methodical way to go through that, but tying your own things you'll do, whether you want to call them goals or not, to whether it's growth at the company, right? So if it's back to the conversation or the commentary around, if you're looking to find a partner, right, instead of playing video, like the fork in the road is play video games tonight online or like go out somewhere, wherever that somewhere may be. Like you kind of make the choice to go out somewhere. So you kind of like lean in. If it's the optimization of processes or the growth aspect, maybe I will take that extra client meeting, or maybe I will reach out to that supplier to push back this one time because I know the importance of cost reductions, things of that nature. Like those I think are the helpful overarching ideas that can kind of lean folks to the way that the company needs them to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. And kind of underneath what you were just saying is something I remember reading a few years back, that are basically kind of the two questions as you're thinking about goal setting and planning. Ask yourself these two questions. If I repeated every action I took today for a year, where would I end up? And then the second question, which is just as important, is that the place that I want to be? That's kind of the definition of a goal and a plan. So, you kind of,
and being, is that the place I want to be, is the goal, right? Is that the goal you want? Yep.
That's exactly right. And then the plan is if I did more of this every day, like you said, you're going to try to build into your schedule, into the structure of what you do, those elements that'll get you towards your goal. So I think those two questions I oftentimes think about as very helpful. I'm going to go out to lunch this afternoon. I got a little sales call. We're going to a place called Burgatory. They've got monster milkshakes. And I'm like, I want to get a milkshake. I love
the name of restaurants sometimes.
If I repeat this action every day for a year, where would I end up? Oh, like I put a cinder block in my belly every day for a year. Where would I end up? I know exactly where I'd end up. So it's like maybe
with some more sales, but heavily overweight.
Yeah, exactly. So this is. I think it's a useful framework.
No, I agree. I like that too. Yeah, I think I just generally think that having that endpoint and like working backwards is a really good idea, just mentally. And I really like you had said is Jordan Peterson, right? Is what you were referencing?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Yep. Just the idea of the anxiousness if you're going off track or not. I think that's a fantastic way to think about that, because I could put myself in just daily situations where it's like, all right, there's like a lack of calmness here, and it's really, I could be off doing something I could be working on something that's not the thing I need to work on, right? It's something else, but maybe not the most important thing. And a lot of the ways to achieve greatness is just knocking those big, hairy goals off the list before some of the other minor, easier, just general work that you have going on.
Right on.
And then maybe switching, Alan, just to the bigger goals and like setting like one big goal. So you and I talked about this. actually have one in mind, but I think it's cool to set things up. So I had heard about this from Jesse Itzler. So Jesse Itzler, you can look him up online. He sells like a big calendar. He's a big goal guy, and every year there's this Japanese concept called a Misogi, and every year he sets a Misogi for himself. So what is a Misogi? The idea of the Misogi is it's a deliberate annual test of your personal limits. So two people, another person is Marcus Elliott, Dr. Marcus Elliott, but Isler is where I heard about it from. So essentially consider it a big goal that you want to hit during the year, something that's personally challenging. So something that's not a routine activity. It has to be hard. So a genuine 50-50 chance of failure or pushing yourself to the edge. So this is something you possibly 50%, not possibly 50% of the time you'll fail this thing. So it has to be so absurd that you may need to fail and eat that failure.
And so back to your SMART goal, what you're saying is we're throwing that SMART thing out the window because it shouldn't be. It should be.
It has to be a bit idiotic.
Yeah, that's right.
It has to be
for me, it would be any physical feat. That would be
or overwhelming.
Classic marathon.
Yeah, if you're not overwhelming, this isn't ending the year with a little bit of like burn in your chest, right? Just because you lifted the day before. This is like you want to go do some activity that you wouldn't have done without this challenge. From the personal side, it should be done for self-discovery, not external validation. So it's something you inherently like want or need. And then the fourth here is don't die, right? So, so the idea is still make it to next year, right? Is to make it next year.
Yes.
But there's a 50% chance of failure. So examples would be like physical. I have here is like an ultra marathon. Folks might want to do a marathon, like a difficult peak, silent retreat. These are the ones that Jesse kind of did. Like people quitting smoking for the whole year. Could be alcohol, or it could be something business wise, something that you want to set up, something that you haven't done, setting up a conference, setting up a dinner, like meeting new people and having an end goal, what they're going to do. So it's just the core idea of this, Alan, is that growth happens outside your comfort zone, right? So much of us to the routine. If I do the same thing today, will I end up at the end of the year in the same place? Like, how about you do some of that, but then you disrupt it with this big thing as well, right? And change the direction of stuff.
The concept of this is killer. It's awesome. Just by the way that it's laid out and the definition of it. So you and I were talking about it previously. Where my mind immediately went to this is if you're truly going to be successful with the 50-50, that means truly the first year you might succeed or you might fail. But let's take the case where you succeed. So you've succeeded at some big goal you gave yourself. In the second year, you should be thinking, I need to go in the direction of harder, because what I did last year, I did achieve it. And therefore I probably didn't find my 50-50. I probably was erring on the side of something I know that I can do. So I should make my goal second year harder. And if you succeed second year, wouldn't want to be you, because year 3 is going to be a bear, right? Because you need to hold yourself to doing something that you're pretty sure you're going to fail at, so you can keep yourself honest. But this is the whole purpose, is finding your limits. And if you haven't failed, you haven't found your limit.
Yeah, and it could be different things, right? One could be physical, one could be mental, one could be whatever it may be. So they can change too and be like equally as hard in a way. But you always have to consider, will I possibly fail, right? If I haven't run ever and I'm going to do 26.2 miles, there's a long way to get there, and I need to do everything I can, but I may not be able to complete it still. I'm starting at 0. So I mean, there's things, but I think it's awesome. So just speaking high level for where I'm going, something, Alan, you and I have talked about from me is just getting myself out there more, introducing myself to folks, have reasons for getting folks together, bringing people together, of a certain status level. So I think it's kind of the folks that we're looking to reach out to during this podcast when we first started it. So I think something along those lines of putting myself out there, making myself comfortable with rejection, and people saying no, thank you, while still pushing through and getting folks together. I think that's that's something that I'm looking to do this year, and something that
Yeah.
I'll be setting up my Misogi for.
Yeah. This is not something I'm going to do this year, but my head immediately went to, I enjoy tippling. I enjoy a good cocktail, a good glass of wine. And my head immediately went to, maybe next year I need to see if I can go an entire year without a drop of alcohol. Like, that is a tough goal. That's a really
For
tough
sure.
goal. There is probably greater than 50% chance I would fail at that, but wouldn't it be an interesting thing to give a try?
Yeah. My dad always did it during Lent every year.
Yeah.
Just to make sure. He's
Yeah.
like, can I do this?
Just 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You could do,
And then
anybody
he's
can
like,
do anything in 6
one
weeks.
time he went to spring training. He's like, well, I'm not going to do it there.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count. Yeah,
Traveling.
let's go with friends. So, but yeah, just the idea of just like pushing yourself to that uncomfortable. I've stopped drinking alcohol for like a few weeks, and you're like, you feel better, but you end up going, you're like, oh, these are the situations. I realize I actually have triggers that set you up, and you're like, oh, that's okay. Like, I know as soon as I take one drink, it'll be 2. I usually stop around 2 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll drink again next week, and then one day turns into 3 days, and then you reset yourself going back to 0. So it's those things are interesting things. But yeah, I think the idea though, Alan, just going back to it, is like there are things that we don't try. There's things that we don't even think about trying, but in the back of our mind, we're like, this will make me a better person in one way or another. And it's that anxiousness. I think if it makes you anxious, maybe there's also a different way to think about it. If it makes you anxious, maybe that's something you should do. Maybe that's something your body is saying, do this, like try that out. That is a current gap you have, and get after it. Why not try? So that's my mistake.
I think it's a fantastic idea. Thank you for introducing this idea of Misogi to me. It definitely has spent some resident time in my brain for the past few weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're reading 35 books would be a Misogi for me. So, I think
This could be in the 50-50 failure category. Trust me. It might be a Misogi moment.
Misogi light for you, maybe. If you've done more before, maybe it's still the Misogi light that you'll be working towards this year. I think if you put your mind to it, maybe you already have and just generally committed. But if you have that mindset where it will get done, it probably will get done.
Yep. All right, Tom. Another one in the books. On behalf of your humble hosts here at the Rebuild Procurement Podcast, we are Tommy Finn, the guy who puts the fin in finance, and your OG in procurement. I'm Alan Veek, hoping that you will make this a powerful and productive week in procurement. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Show me, and you won't hear the word rebuild.